So I've set the laser level up on the opposite end of the bath, and we're pointing there at 425mm, which is exactly the centre of the bath, which is 850mm. And you'll notice that the actual laser level line is level and the bath isn't, and that's because we've not levelled the bath yet, because we're not going to level that until we've tiled the floor. So the whole reason behind putting the laser level there and setting it up this way is for fixing the tap. So this tap can be bath mounted or it can be wall mounted. So what you would do is you'd find the centre of the bath and then you'd mark out the correct spacing from the centre of the tap, and you drill the holes into the bath, and then you could mount the actual tap onto the bath. But in this case we're not going to do that. So we're going to undo these unions. And we've bought this back plate, and the centres of that are 150mm, which are perfect for this tap. So we're going to fix our tap to the wall using this back plate, and then we're going to pipe up to it using the compression fittings at the bottom. So to fit this wall mounted tap, we now need to get it in the correct position. I've actually drawn a line there where the bath was, but that's not actually level yet, but it gives us an indication of the height of the bath. And this line going down here is the line that's in the exact centre of the bath. So we need to fit the tap at approximately 3 inches above the height of the bath, which is going to be there. So we're going to be fitting the tap in that kind of position. So I'm just going to mark a line on the top of the back plate. So I've now set up the laser level to just make it a little bit clearer what I've done. So I've got a horizontal line and a vertical line now, and the actual tap is going to be positioned there, so that's where we want the actual back plate mounting. So we can now take a few measurements from the actual back plate itself, and the actual pipes there should be 150mm centres. So if we take it from the centre of there to centre of there, it should be 150mm, which that one is. And if we turn it around and measure the back, you can see that the back plate is about 38mm. So that means the centre of the back plate is going to be about 19mm. So if we mark a line at 19mm down from the top of the back plate using the laser level, and then make sure we've got our 150mm spacing from the centre line, so we want 75mm at each side, that should be the exact correct place to drill the holes for the actual pipes that are coming out of this. So firstly I'm going to measure 19mm down from that line. And then we want 75mm in that direction from the centre line, and 75mm in that direction. So now if I just lower the laser slightly, I've now got an accurate position on the board which I need to drill the correct size for these two pipes that are going to be coming out. So I've now fitted an hole saw to the drill that's the correct size. So those two holes should be in the exact right position to accept the two pipes. So I'm now going to spot through these two holes, which will mark the wall at the back, and then we'll know exactly where to fit the wall plate. So we should now have a mark on the wall that we can follow once we've taken the plasterboard down. So I've packed the wall out here using some marine ply and I've also used some packers to get it to the correct depth, so that when I fit the back plate on there, it's at the exact right position to fit the tap when we come to fit the taps later. So what I've also had to do is measure the distance from the nut there to the end of the threads here. And what I've had to do is ensure that the bracket is far enough forwards so that it sticks through the plasterboard and the towel and the covering plate and still leaves you all the threads to screw the tap onto. So that's an important consideration when you're fitting a wall mounted tap like this. You do need to make sure that you bring it far enough forwards so that you allow for your plasterboard, your towel and your covering plate. So you can now see that the back plate has been fitted and it's extremely secure. So I've now put a piece of plasterboard on top of there just to demonstrate, and now a towel, and that is the plate that also goes on there. So once we get everything on there, there is just enough room to get the tap on, and it will screw onto all those threads. So this is the wall where the wall mounted tap is, and on here we're going to put the shower at a later date. So what I've done is I've run these battens across and I've squared the whole thing up so that now if I get a square and put it in that corner, the corner is completely square, which will make it a lot easier when we come to fitting the bath. I've also marked on each edge where the actual studs are that I've put in. And then when we put the plasterboard on there, it's easy because we can just screw directly into the studs because we know where they are because they've been marked. And if you look here, you can see that I've been using plastic shims to shim the studs out, so it is now completely square. On the left hand side of the partition I used no shims, and on this side I've put some 6mm shims at the back of this piece of timber to square the whole thing up. So now we know that this frame is now completely square. So when we put our plasterboard on there, we can be confident that the bath's going to fit perfectly in the corner. And the wall plate for the tap is all fixed in position. We've had the water onto this, we've checked it for leaks, there's no leaks. So we're now going to put the plasterboard on, and you can see again that I've been using shims to shim that side out so that that protrudes through the plasterboard by an equal amount at each side. To fix the plasterboard to the wall, we're going to be using these drywall screws, which are bugle headed and they're phosphate coated so they won't actually rust. And whenever you put screws in like that, it's important to get them just below the surface of the paper, but without actually tearing the surface of the paper. You can now see that the plasterboard is in position on the partition wall, and we've also got the tap in position. I've only actually put the tap on there temporarily. Obviously I'm going to be removing it shortly because we're going to be tanking that area.